All right, we're live. Welcome to Office Hours, right? This is going to be a interactive session. If you have questions, please post them. We have a Q&A section, but like post throughout. Like we're here to answer questions about vCluster, talking about vCluster open source. So if you want to learn more about it, or if you have questions that maybe you don't want to ask in Slack, but you just want to ask here, go ahead. But Mike Peterson and Scott McAllister, I'm going to go through and go to the intro slide and stuff like that. But welcome, Scott. You want to say hello before I go over there?
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm excited to be a part of the show.
Awesome. Well, so we've a bunch of stuff's happened with vCluster this year. Like we've done, we're doing like more like monthly releases and stuff like that. So there's a couple of things maybe you missed, or maybe you saw them. Like maybe you're following the changelog, which I'll talk about in the a little bit later on. But let's go ahead and get started. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're doing office hours. We're going to talk about what's new in vCluster. So we're going to talk about the OSS or the vCluster OSS Rancher Integration, Snapshot and Restore, expanded fromHost resource syncing. Basically, we're talking about all the new stuff that's come out for the open source version of vCluster. There are some other updates too that are enterprise that we may touch on, but we'll look at that when we get into the docs. And then we'll do Q&A and then a demo, question mark for the demo. But I have a demo for Snapshot and Restore. If we've got time, I'll show that off. It's pretty simple, pretty quick. And then we'll do an outro, and we'll talk about where you can see Scott next, because Scott is traveling. You want to give a hint? Are you going to be somewhere soon?
I'm going to be, oh, geez. I'll be somewhere. I'll be somewhere soon. We'll talk about it at the end there. But yeah, I'll be traveling a fair bit coming the summer months. Yeah.
And then some closing thoughts. So let's go and get started. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Scott, since you're new and you're. Let me actually drag you to the top too. Oh, actually, I'll leave it how it is. Go ahead, Scott. Introduce yourself.
I'll talk about me and then you talk about you.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I'm Scott McAllister. I'm a developer advocate. Just joined the team here at Loft Labs, and super excited to be part of the team here and to see the projects that we're working on and the things that we're doing in the Kubernetes space. It's a lot of fun. I previously was at ngrok and PagerDuty and Smartsheet, and the list gets longer and longer. Oracle was there. That so happens in our tech careers. Love learning new things. That's what I love most about being in technology, being in software, is that I love seeing where my path takes me, where my journey takes me. And I would have never thought I would be doing things, A, as a developer advocate, but B, working in Kubernetes and working with virtual Kubernetes and things like that. So this has been a lot of fun, a cool ride, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And if you scan that little thing, it's going to take you to your LinkedIn.
That will take you to, I believe it takes me to my Twitter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can follow you there. Okay, cool. All right. And then I'm Mike Peterson, technical marketing at Loft Labs. I'm the stay-at-home partner for Scott. Scott's out and about. I'll be staying home and trying to do digital stuff.
You hold down the fort.
Yeah. I like making demos and videos. Previously, IBM, Mirantis, Platform 9, worked in OpenStack and everything, and then moved to Kubernetes and then Knative. Did some stuff there, and then some Tecton stuff and all that too. But now I just make videos about vCluster, and then our other products, vNode, and some other things too that you're going to see here soon. But I like making videos, doing webinars, and then trying to interact with the community and answer questions and stuff if you have it. I think you'll see us a little bit more often too on Slack too. So if you have questions, hopefully we can answer those questions for you. Like I said, if you have questions here, post them on LinkedIn, post them on YouTube, post them on Twitter, and we'll try to answer them. All right, so let's talk about the first thing. One of the biggest things that got released in the last couple of months, and that's the vCluster OSS Rancher Integration. Got a little image here that's moving that kind of shows what it looks like. And we also have videos and stuff too, which I'll link that. I don't know, Scott, maybe you can link that. Can you link to our YouTube channel in the no, don't link to it, because actually I'll link to it in the LinkedIn comments and stuff later. Because we're going to link our YouTube video to people that are watching it on YouTube, which will be the best thing. Like, oh, I can find more videos there. Anyways. So now you can deploy virtual clusters with Rancher. It's even easier to use it. Basically, you just add the operator, install the Rancher UI integration, deploy virtual clusters, increase profits, right? Because you're spending less. We've got the little image here that shows it, but then we also have a video kind of showing you how to configure it and set it up too. So if you go to some of the recent videos on our YouTube, you'll find it there. I'll link it in the LinkedIn comments after this is over. This is recorded too, so if you ever want to watch it and come back, you can. All right, we're going to go through pretty quick. These are like a couple minutes for each of these, but if you have questions on any of them, you can ask them. Scott, you got anything to say about the Rancher integration? I don't think you played with that yet. Maybe you have.
I haven't played with that yet. I am super excited. I remember the first time I played with Rancher, it took a little bit to get it going at first because there's a little bit of learning curve to actually get Rancher installed. So, and to configure it and running on my machine. I think it's because it didn't run well on Macs, right? Like it doesn't run great on a Mac. But knowing that once I get that going, and then I can get a vCluster and get vClusters spun up inside of a Rancher instance, would be awesome. So I definitely looking forward to using that, and especially excited that this is part of the open source version of vCluster. So this is something that our open source community can get a hold of and to use. So definitely use it. Post into the GitHub repo any issues, or come to our community Slack there at I believe it's slack.vcluster.com. We can post that in the comments for sure.
There's like an enterprise one too, but I think that we're going to move closer to maybe this one in the future, right? Because this one came out after the enterprise one, and this one's a little bit easier to interact with and create. Like the enterprise will take you to the vCluster platform and then send you back. But this one, it's like, hey, all my users are using Rancher. We want to use vCluster, but like we don't have an easy way to do it. Just install the stuff, and then they can create everything within there, and then they'll be able to manage it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, we got a video showing how to do it. Any questions, post them, right? Like we're here to answer questions. This is interacting with the community. So please interact with us and give us some questions. Otherwise, Scott can ask you some questions. Right. I'll try to answer them. And if we can't answer them for any reason too, just reach out to us on Slack, right? Like reach out to us on Slack, and then we'll get some engineering team members to give us the information that we might not have, because we are marketing and DevRel. We are not SREs. Kind of close maybe eventually, but yeah, not SREs. All right, so Snapshot and Restore. This is what I'm going to show them the demo a little bit later. I think we'll have time for that, unless we get like 100 questions. But Snapshot and Restore. So now you can snapshot your virtual clusters. This is with version 0.24. So the Rancher release wasn't a numbered version. The next numbered version of vCluster that's coming out is going to be version 0.25. So we're going back to the latest version 24. This is going to have snapshots and restores, supported by the CLI, which removes the need for using additional tools to back up your virtual clusters. Before, I think people were using like Valero, something like that, to where they were backing it up. But now that's all built in, right? So I'll do a demo of that after we get through the slides. But basically, it adds the option for vCluster snapshot to the command line, vCluster restore to the command line, backs it up to an image, and it'll upload it to your OCI compliant registry. It's all pretty easy. Scott, I don't think you played around with this yet, but I'll have to show you the... I made a Rickroll demo of this. So we have the video demo on how you can do this too on our YouTube channel under the vCluster tips.
Anything with the Rickroll's got to be good.
Yeah.
So no, essentially this is like, when I imagine what this is like when we would take like a virtual machine, we'd take a snapshot of it, right? We could set it up exactly how we want it, and then like share it with somebody exactly how it is.
The cool thing is you can share it like that, or like say you want to try something like, hey, I want to install these CRDs, but I don't know if it's going to mess up my vCluster for some reason, and you don't like, maybe you've got a bunch of stuff deployed and like you want to treat it more like a pet for some reason, because you want to, you're comfortable with it. Well, you can deploy like, Cert Manager or something like that. First you snapshot it before you install or make any changes. You install your things and see if you like them. And you're like, oh, I don't want to use Cert Manager, it's too much. Then what you can do is you can actually take that snapshot and you can restore from that point, which will overwrite the changes that you made, right? So if your developers want to try new things, but they're worried about having to, I don't know, like roll stuff back, you can now easily do that without having to figure out, okay, how do I uninstall all these CRDs that I've installed if there's not like an easy guide. Saw it with Helm, we just Helm delete. But
that would have been nice. I've been setting up a home lab recently where I want to be running vCluster on a machine in my house. And I got it to a spot where like, okay, this is what I want bare minimum, right? These are the CRDs I want bare minimum. I got my ingress controller, I got my Cert Manager, things like that. So I could have taken a snapshot then and then be like, okay, now I'm going to try new stuff. Now I'm going to try putting in some other things I'm not really sure about yet. And then I can, if this, blows up, great. I'll just roll it back to that particular snapshot.
Yeah, it's a good way to share like stuff that you're working on with someone else too. Like if you want them to test it in their local environment to see if it's working as well as yours is, or even maybe help troubleshoot, right? Like maybe you've configured something that they want to like modify or give you information about. All right, moving on to the next one. Expanded fromHost resource sync, right? So this is going to give you options to sync stuff from the host namespace into your virtual cluster, right? Like there's more than just, secrets and config maps. So secrets and config maps are part of the open source, and then the CRD stuff is part of the enterprise. But what this is going to do is it's going to give you the ability to create a namespace for that virtual cluster, deploy that virtual cluster into the namespace, create a secret in that namespace still on the host cluster, and then share it up to the virtual cluster. Like maybe you need to share certain secrets or config maps with your users when they deploy the virtual cluster. This is going to give you the option to do that. Now, the difference here is that now you can do it based on namespaces instead of just being like a global thing, right? So you can segment it out into that namespace and then share it up. So like sync by namespace, you got secrets, config maps, and then namespace custom resources. After we do the stuff here, I'll go to the docs too and kind of show where you can find this information. But we're just going to basically talk about these pretty quickly, get through it, show a demo, and then I'll go to the docs.
Sweet.
Scott, I don't know if you messed with any of the fromHost resource syncing.
I have not messed with the secrets config maps, but I have messed with the ingress. So setting up, I can set up ingress in the host cluster. That was like, for me, that was one of those light bulb moments of, okay, this is cool. Like vCluster is pretty rad. And so I can set up my ingress inside of my host cluster, and then I don't have to install it again, right? I can just say, I want to use ingress. I'm going to pass it, or I'm going to take it from host. And then when I'm setting up my vCluster, I'm able to easily do that. So yeah, again, going back to that home lab that I said I was building, that's come in handy as I've spun up 2 different vClusters now, and was easily able to get the ingress configured there.
Awesome. And I'm blowing through these pretty quick. Let's go to the next one then. Q&A. I don't know. Just keep asking questions. I'm going to go through the next stuff, and then I think I'm going to show what's next. The demo. I'm going to go and do a demo of the Snapshot and Restore. So if you have any questions, just feel free to post them in here. We'll answer them. Like I said, interactive. All right, so let's go over to our Snapshot and Restore. So let me bring up my trusty text editor so I can actually show you. All right, so
here, while you bring that up, something I love doing when I'm on these live streams is let us know in the comments where you're from. Where are you connecting in from? Like, I'm always fascinated by the fact that I'm like broadcasting from Seattle, Washington, and we get folks from all over the world. And so totally would love to just post in the comments, say, hey, that you're coming in from, I don't know, Mike, you're coming in from like Portland, right?
Portland, yeah. Pacific Northwest, both of us. Yeah.
Represent. It's sunny, which is weird, right? Because so anyone who knows the Pacific Northwest, the fact that there's sun outside, I'm still not sure what to do with this.
It's gonna be 80 today.
Yeah, we have to like duck and cover here because it's like way too warm. So
I say, being from the East Coast, I turn the AC on at like 70, 75 or something like that, which is like probably way too low. Like I'm running the AC once it hits like 75 outside, and I'm keeping it like 66 to 68 in here, which is kind of cold. That's why I'm wearing my sweatshirt.
It actually has an air conditioner. So many people in the
that's true.
PNW don't have air conditioners. But anyway, going back to vCluster, you got your vCluster list running here. Show us what you're going to do with the snapshotting.
All right, so I'm going to start out by create. So I'm listing that I have no virtual clusters right now. I'm going to go ahead and create a vCluster, and I'm going to call it test. Right. So when I create the virtual cluster, I do vCluster create, and then I do a name. I can put in information like in a YAML to configure this, like the vCluster YAML to configure it a certain way that I want it. But this is just going to be like a basic test without anything special set up. It's going to bring up a port forward by bringing up a container. I'm running Docker desktop. You can be running something else as long as you can bring a container up on your local machine. It's going to bring that up, and it's going to port forward it, and it's going to connect me into the virtual cluster. Otherwise, I could do something like set up ingress in front of the virtual cluster, and I can access it that way. But the first time you basically create a virtual cluster, you're probably going to port forward, and you're going to just configure it and set up this way. The containers will come up. It's going to be easy to use. Now, if you don't have Docker desktop, I'm going to talk while it's finishing out. If you don't have Docker desktop, what it'll do is it'll just port forward here, and you can open up another terminal window or tab, and then you can interact with the virtual cluster. But it's going to add it to your kube context, and it's going to connect in for you. So as soon as this is up, I'm just basically showing you I'm creating a virtual cluster. I'm going to create a deployment in that virtual cluster. I'm going to show that it's running. I'm going to snapshot it. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to create it again and do all that fun stuff. All right, so here we're connected. So let's do a kube CTX to show our context. We're in that vCluster test right now. What we're going to do is we're going to create a basic deployment, which is just going to have a couple of like a pod running. All right, so we're going to have just this Nginx deployment running. Once we've done that, let's go ahead and we're going to all right, so the idea here is I've created this deployment in my virtual cluster. I want to back this, or I want to snapshot this so that I can get back to this point at any time if I want to, or I can share it with somebody else. So very basic thing. Maybe I've installed like CRDs and other stuff, but for this example, all I've done is I've created this deployment, and I want to share the state of this, right? Because the actual thing that it's hosting here is a web page with a Rickroll. I'm not going to show that, but it's basically a basic deployment.
On, we want to see the Rickroll.
Well, there's other settings I have to actually configure, right? Like I've got the vCluster snapshot Rickroll 1987. So going back to when it was coming out. All right, so we got our pods here. What we're going to do now is we're going to disconnect. All right, so we're going to disconnect from the vCluster. We vCluster list. We can see that it is running. We look at our kube context, and we are back to default, which is the host cluster. So now let's go ahead and snapshot this. All right, so I'm sending this over to Docker Hub with my user, and then I'm saying where I want the image, and I'm tagging it. So basically, you need a OCI compliant place to send this. I'm sending it to Docker. You could send it other places that you have configured, like if you want to keep it local. But I'm just going to upload this to Docker. I mean, you could vCluster create off of this image because it's public if you wanted to, just to see the deployment. All right, so now,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so you need to specify an actual location. Like it's going to error out if you don't give it a place to go. It's not, there's like no default spot to put it.
Correct. So it's you need to say where I'm going to send this. There's a couple ways. Like basically, you can upload it here, or you can do it locally by sending it to another container that's running there. Like right now, there's not a easy local option. It's thinking that you're going to send it to somewhere that's like an image repository, so you can restore from it quickly. But there is a workaround way that you can do it locally if you want to save this data in some other place and then have it backed up. But like I said, right now it's just somewhere that's OCI compliant. In the future, that may change, right? Like depending on how people want to store this stuff. All right, so now what we'll do is first we're going to show how we can actually create a new vCluster off of this. So what I can do first is I'll vCluster delete this. All right, so I had my deployment. I had my deployment deployed within that virtual cluster. I disconnected. I'm deleting it, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna restore. So what we should see is when I restore back, or when I create a new virtual cluster off of this backup, it's gonna have that deployment and stuff running and everything too. All right, so let's go ahead and vCluster list, and then let's go with vCluster create test restore. Hopefully I typed it right. Looks right. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create that test virtual cluster again. And we're saying we're going to restore it from that snapshot that I had created a moment ago. And then this is going to come up, should connect us again. And then what we'll do is we'll get the deployment, or we're going to get the pods again. And then we're going to do something else after that, right? Like I'm going to show an actual restore in place too. All right, so it's restoring it. It's waiting for it to come up. So basically, I created a virtual cluster. I created resources within it. I backed it up. I deleted it. And then now I'm creating a brand new virtual cluster. So say you share this with a user, or say you want to create the virtual cluster off this. Basically, you can type out that same command, and it will create a new virtual cluster based on the one that I've created from the snapshot. All right, I've been talking a lot, Scott. You got anything you want to add into?
So this is gonna. Again, so you're gonna the magic is gonna be when this vCluster comes back, we should see our deployment sitting in there. Yes, that's the point. So we're gonna see our deployment. We're gonna see anything that we installed, but we didn't install anything. We just essentially configured an ingress with Nginx.
Yeah, all we did really is
pull it up. So
we just did this. We did an Nginx by itself. So we're using Nginx, and then
your image.
Yeah, my image is basically based on Nginx.
Right. That's right.
All right, so hold on, we have a question. So how resource limits and requests managed inside vCluster? So you can set a quota on the base cluster, right? Like you can set a quota and restrict it that way, right? Because all these are still running, which I'll show that in a minute. All this stuff is still running on the host cluster, right? So it's gonna be affected by stuff that you're doing on the host cluster within the namespacing for quotas, and then like network policies and other things like that, right? So that's how you can restrict it there. Now, the enterprise version has cross cluster quotas and stuff like that too, so it takes it to another level. But basically, the open source version, you're just gonna like restrict it based on the namespace. So when you bring it up, you can keep them from doing too much stuff. Oh, but that's another good question, right? Depending on what your use case is for vCluster. So you're asking that question, you're like, okay, how many users are going to be using the virtual cluster? If you've got, the basic kind of configuration, like what I've deployed here, is vCluster is coming up. It's got SQLite. It's storing all the information and stuff in that instead of etcd, right? Like it's using Kine, and it's storing everything in like a flat file for SQLite. Now, if you're talking about resource, management, stuff like that, assume you're adding like 50 users to this vCluster for some reason, and you're trying to do like bare metal with vCluster on top of it and give users access to a Kubernetes cluster, but through a virtual cluster, so that you can kind of like segment them. There's some considerations you're going to take into. You're going to consider adding, etcd, like embedded etcd, or connecting the virtual cluster to like an external database, so you can store all of that stuff in there, right? It's kind of not answer your question directly, but yeah, you can do that with the host cluster within the namespace for quotas. But then, like I said, just leads me into like, what's your next question? How do I allow like 50 users to use the same vCluster? Like there's some things that you have to change away from like this basic one that I'm showing you. But we've got that documented and we have options for it, right? All right, cool. So now I'm within, all right, let me see, where am I again? I'm within the new virtual cluster that I created based off the snapshot. And if I get pods, I can see that Nginx deployment that I created is still there, right? So I created one, deleted it, restored from this snapshot, and it's the same exact vCluster, right? Okay, get NS. I can show you. I don't have like additional namespace or anything like that. And it's not the base cluster. All right. So now what else can I do? So what if I make a mistake within the virtual cluster, right? Like, and I do something like I deplete. I'm going to delete the deployment. But what if I delete something else on accident, or what if I install like a CRD or something like that I don't want or need, and I don't know how to easily clean it up, or any of those things, right? Like, or what if like I have like a namespace just sitting around forever that I can't get rid of because I need to change the finalizers? Well, you can kind of get around that kind of stuff by restoring from that previous snapshot. All right, so I've got no more pods or anything running. This is in the one that I just created. I deleted the deployment. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to disconnect from it, and then I am going to restore from that snapshot. So instead of creating a new virtual cluster, I'm going to take that virtual cluster that I have, and I'm going to restore based on a snapshot that I created previously.
So you can restore while it's still running.
Yeah, it's gonna. You'll see. I think it'll go down and come back up with it's gonna restart based on that. So it's gonna, while it's still running. If you've got stuff running in there and you do a restore, I think that there is like a. Oh, I did it or typed it out wrong. Let me. Oh, I need the name of it.
Oh yeah,
talk at the same time
of the cluster. Yeah, it's always harder. Talking and typing.
I think it's gonna take it down and then bring it back up. Right?
What if you tried to do this while you were still connected to that vCluster?
I'm just not going to be like, I'm not going to be connected. So I disconnected so that when I do like a kget pods or something like that, it doesn't say like unable to dial the address, because it's going to go down and then
bad things would happen if you tried to do it with inside that same vCluster. So you want to back out of it, disconnect from it, and then try to restore it. Oh, the status. I see the status has changed.
So if you're restoring something that's like, you don't want to restore something that's prod necessarily at the same time, because it will restart it, right? It's got to restart it with that information. All right, so
that's good to keep in mind.
Let's see, where am I? All right, so let's connect back to it, and then the pod should be back. There we go. And then we've got the deployment back. All right, so basically that's just showing like how you can use snapshot to snapshot something and then create a new virtual cluster based off of that, or snapshot and then restore something to a previous state after you've made some changes or like messed around or something like that. So hopefully that was an interesting demo. That's just showing off one of the latest things that we have from vCluster. So like if we go over here, I'm going to show you a couple of other things. So the changelog is the best place to find information. Let me copy paste that into the chat. All right, so you want to go to the changelog if you want to keep up with what's happening in vCluster. Awesome, thank you, Scott.
Yep.
The latest, like I said, April 1st, latest release, Rancher Integration OSS, the new version of vCluster. When it comes out, it'll get posted here. There's going to be some information like kind of like what you would see in a blog post, but more so like written by engineering on like what's changed, like what's new with the things, how to access it, how to get stuff configured. Like for the Rancher OSS integration, if you head here, it'll actually take you to like where you can actually find the information of adding it in. And then you'll also be able to find information like about some other stuff that we're actually releasing, like vNode. vNode is related to vCluster in that it gives you a sandbox where you can run your virtual cluster pods, privileged and other things, to where they can't actually access the host cluster. Like you can't escape out of it, right? Like it's sandbox. So if you escape out, it's in vNode. More information on that in the future. If you're interested in it, there is a private beta. You can actually go sign up for that and try it out. Like you'll find information too about like, snapshot and restore, kind of gives you some of the examples on what you can do. And then previous stuff too. So you're going to find open source information here, and you're going to find enterprise information here. So what's the easiest way to figure out if something's enterprise or open source? It's going to actually be in our docs. So in our docs, the vCluster YAML is how you're going to configure your virtual cluster. If something's got enterprise next to it, that's actually part of the vCluster platform enterprise thing. Everything else is open source. So there's like a ton of stuff that you can do without actually getting into the enterprise stuff, right? So like config maps and secrets, like I was saying previously, that stuff, open source, sync config maps and secrets from the host namespace. And then custom resources enterprise, because if you've got a bunch of custom resources, you're probably looking at like, I don't know, like some stuff that's a little bit more difficult to sync up, and like you can sync it with the custom resource syncer, but like I said, basically the base. What's Scott?
I was going to say, there's two things I love seeing this in the documentation. One is that it's easy to figure out what's enterprise, right? Like you can say, okay, I see what features are there that I need, but then also look how many features are not enterprise.
Yeah.
And so it's like the open source version is very, very functional. But the enterprise stuff, it definitely gets you kind of to another level, but it's just very clearly marked, very clearly like, hey, this is what you need to pay for. This is the stuff you can use on the open source version. That's pretty rad. I like how that's organized.
But we're here to talk about open source, right? Like, if you have open source questions, or if you have like enterprise questions, post them, let us know. Reach out to us on Slack, right? Like, we already give the Slack information. Just join there. Reach out to Scott or me, and if you want to set up like a meeting with like sales, or if you just want to see like a demo or something like that, let us know. We've got some webinars and stuff coming up, but then we also have like a enterprise focused weekly demo where I kind of show off the vCluster platform and then answer questions and then talk about like what each resource type is and how to use it. But start out with open source stuff in our docs, right? Like, so go to our docs and you can find information. Like, the changelog will actually link to the stuff, but then you go to our docs and it'll give a lot more information about like how you can actually get stuff configured, set up, and kind of shows similar stuff to the demo that I showed there. Right, but we got snapshot, restore, config map secrets, and then custom resource stuff. Like I said, you'll see enterprise only feature there, but you can find that with the vCluster platform. All right, let's go back to the slides. So you got anything you want to add in, Scott, before I go back?
So the snapshots that's open source, or that's enterprise?
Correct. Yep.
Right.
Snapshot is open source.
Wow. So that's pretty cool. That you can do enterprise, or sorry, you can do snapshots on the open source product. That's awesome. I definitely see some spots where I could do that, especially like you were saying. The biggest one would be experimenting. I could experiment with things, snapshot it, experiment with it, and then make never mind and roll it back. Wonder if now that my brain's thinking, maybe you start doing that when you're starting to version things. You could version similar how you do other snapshots in other systems, right? Like you're making like you're tagging like a Git repo or something. You could snapshot your cluster, be like, bam, and then you could make snapshots for each different version, and then you can roll it back. So you could make it part of your like CI/CD process, where when you deploy into it, you say, okay, we're going to snapshot it, then we're going to deploy, then we're going to run it, and then you can starting to think about some ideas there. That's some cool ideas.
It's difficult because if you're coming from VMs, right? Like, your VMs, you're supposed to not care about, and they're supposed to come up, and you just like, they're not long lived. Maybe they usually are, right? Right. They're not supposed to be long lived. They're supposed to be able to be easily replaceable and stuff. And they come up, but then you get this idea of like, oh, this is my pet. Like, I'm used to using this. I'm configuring and setting it up. You can do the same.
I don't want to change it because I don't want to kill it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be this. Yeah.
Like, this will give you a little bit more of that same feeling with like Kubernetes clusters, because you can have the versioning, and you can go back and you can make changes and own it, instead of like maybe the more common thing that you're doing is like just creating a new one and then not caring about the old one. But the snapshot and restore too is good for like disaster recovery, and it's good for just playing around, because while you should be doing it a certain way, not everyone is going to do it that way. And it's nice to have the option to be able to mess around and play with stuff, especially as you're learning and you don't understand all those other concepts of like, how do I do CI/CD? How do I just rebuild this quickly? How do I make it declarative somewhere else? Right. Like, yeah, it kind of gets you there a little bit better. And it's good for like doing like teaching other people, right? Because the snapshot, like when I take the snapshot, it's exactly the same, right? Like, as long as I don't make any modifications, it's exactly the same. And what does that mean? That means that like, if I do like a tutorial on how to do something, and I want to give the exact copy paste information with the name of the resource, I can do that, because the resource name is the same, right? Like, until I start making changes. But if I get it to exactly how I want to set it up, I can do like, okay, now type get ingress and then this ingress name, and it'll give it to you, or kubectl get ingress, it'll give it to you. And I don't have to modify that for like a tutorial or like a workshop or something like that. So it's good for workshops, good for like sales too, if they just want to like snapshot something, give it to the customer, and let them go play around with it. So there's many different things you can use it for. But yeah, well, like the enterprise. Go ahead, Scott.
My apologies. But I mean, isn't that engineering, right? Like, all of us like to experiment with stuff. I heard something recently. I think it was from Lucas, our CEO. He was on a podcast recently where he talked about like, if everyone did everything the same all the time, we would never innovate. Right? Because it's the people that take chances and try to do things differently that we innovate and make improvements on our different processes, on our software products, on our products. And so like by giving people that chance to try something out with a lower risk of, exploding things that are unrecoverable, being able to recover from, failed experiments, I think is beneficial to everyone, because it's beneficial for your processes, because your processes get better as you try out new things and try to make things more efficient. But then also your products, because as you try to make them differently, as you try to build them differently, add new features or make things run better, then you can actually have that, you can have that safety net of knowing that you can have a version of it and then roll back. So I think it's good because it encourages innovation.
So the Borg kind of needs the Federation to keep getting better, right? Like Kubernetes based on Borg is a bad joke. They need the Federation to grow, right? Like if everything did it the same, then they would never grow, and you'd never have a little group that broke off to try to figure out life.
I honestly, when you first said Borg, my brain went, "Oh, he's talking about like the first version of Kubernetes," and then I was like, "Nope, he's not. He's making a reference to Star Trek." Okay.
I've been catching my wife up on Next Generation, and now we're watching Deep Space Nine and stuff too, because she didn't watch it as a kid, and she's been enjoying it. It's good.
Well
good
done.
Programs.
Well done to educate the masses.
All right, so we did the demo. All right, so let's go ahead and if you have questions, post them. But I'm going to hand it off to Scott for a minute, so Scott can talk about what's coming up for him in the next couple of months.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. I'm hitting the road as a developer advocate. That's one of the parts of our jobs. One of them is to be here with the community online, but the other is to come out and to be with the community in person. And so I'm excited to be at these events in the future. If you're in these areas, if you're at any of these events, let me know. Come on by, introduce yourself. We can chat about vCluster, Kubernetes, or anything you'd like to talk about. I'll be in New York City at KCD in June. We'll be having a booth there, and I'll be doing a session. And then be hitting the Midwest for some summer shows there in the Midwest. So I'll be in Kansas City at the Kansas City DevOps meetup, talking and sharing about vCluster there. And then at Nebraska Code, I'll be talking about end-to-end testing. So ephemeral pull request environments. So we'll be talking about how vCluster can help you there, but then also how you can integrate that with GitHub Actions. And then the same thing I'll be talking about in Kansas City, again, back at the Kansas City Developer Conference. If you've never been to that one, it's a big polyglot show at the Kansas City Convention Center. Really, really good. It's in conjunction with the Kansas City DevOps Days this year. So that is going to be the same location, just the day before. And so you can get into Kansas City or start the conference a day earlier and be part of that conference. So Nebraska Code, another great show there in Nebraska, there in Lincoln, and the town where University of Nebraska is. And just a great show of again, a polyglot show, lots of different technologies, lots of different things to learn and people to meet. So yeah, super excited about hitting all these different events, and hopefully I can see many of you there in the future.
So the DevOps Days and stuff is pretty good, because it's like, I mean, I've been to DevOps Days. I've went one like 5 years ago or something like that in Portland, before everything closed down for a little bit. But they were always interesting because the breakout rooms, right? Like you had some talks and stuff like that, but the breakout rooms are really cool, because then you could sit there and talk with people either in your area or if you traveled that work at the bigger tech companies and other companies, and what they're thinking about using and like how they're doing stuff, and then actually ask them questions. That people love to talk about what they're doing, right? Or what they're implementing. So you can actually ask some questions and learn a lot of stuff that you might not necessarily get from just going to a different conference where you don't talk to people in the hallways. Like this encourages go into a room, talk to people, interact, and figure out like what you have in common and what y'all could work on that's similar, right? Did that with like OpenStack way back. And then I'm sure Kubernetes now, people were always talking about customize is better than Helm or something like that.
Oh yeah. So I mean, we're all software engineers, right? We have opinions, believe it or not. I love the conferences that facilitate those conversations. For me, when I tell people like, yeah, I go to a conference, it's not just to speak, right? Or it's not just to attend the sessions. If I'm going as an attendee, that's only half of what you're getting. Is seeing what people are presenting from a stage. The other half, and maybe even more than half, to be perfectly honest, is the conversations you have with people in the session rooms as you're waiting for a session to start, or after a session's over, or in these facilitated rooms like the DevOps Days folks put together. And then in the hallways, if you're a little more socially gregarious and willing to walk up to strangers, the hallway is also just a great place to overhear different things and different ideas and different opinions and concepts that people are trying out. I learn so much from the people that I meet at conferences, and then on the top of that, as you meet those people, you can network, right? You can get to know folks. Then you'll never know. The tech space, while so big, is so small. You never know when you might need to learn about a different product, or might need a job, or you might have a product where you're working in a company and you realize, oh wait, we would be really great if we integrated with this other product over here. And then, hey, I met a person at this company. She was an engineer, and oh, I could totally reach out to her and we can start talking about how we could maybe get our products to work together. And so that's just another part of going to in-person events that I totally, totally love. It's the fact that you get to know these people, you get to have these personal relationships, but then also learn from them, and they can learn from you. As you share the things you've learned, we've all seen things in a different way, and no one knows all the things about all the things. So you might know some things, you can share it with them, and they might know a little bit more from a different angle, and they can share it with you, and suddenly you both are better for it.
Say the more you learn, the more you realize you just don't know anything, and that there's people there that will know it 10 times better than you. So
right. And we're just a
proclaim
different
expert.
angle. I love the fact that different angles, like different people, like you and I and 10 other people could present on the same topic, and we'll all take a different angle, and suddenly we have a more full picture of that topic.
That kind of leads into another thing where Scott's been getting some demos and stuff set up with vCluster, and I completely missed the point. He asked me how to replace a certain ingress, and instead of giving him the easiest way to deploy a virtual cluster, get it into Argo CD and all that stuff, I'm teaching him how to do ingress with like local DNS and like all these extra things stuff, which is entertaining and interesting. But then, like, you know, a day later, he's like, oh, I found an easy way to do this. I just use this, because he just wanted to get the thing done. But I'm sitting here trying to help him re-engineer ingress. But
I might have gone back to the easy way.
Yeah.
It just worked.
I tell you what, people, when they get to the ingress section of like Kubernetes, start setting that stuff up, it kind of, they'll glaze over, right? But gateways come in, maybe that'll make it a little bit easier. We'll see.
The big issue for me, I mean, for folks, is that I'm running this as a home lab, right? So I'm running it out of my house, and I needed an ingress solution that allowed me to get online but not expose my home network, essentially. And so that's why I went with this other product that's not widely used.
I'm going to switch in this one so we can have this up for people to see Slack and stuff, and then we'll swap over to just like two talking heads and stuff in a second. But yeah, if you have questions, ask questions. Otherwise, we're just gonna talk about stuff, and hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully it's enjoyable, but we'll make it vCluster like centric and stuff like that. So you're setting up a home lab. I've got a home lab at home too. I've been watching a lot of home lab videos and trying to figure out like what to buy next. And I've been looking at like the 1 liter PCs and all that stuff. But what's interesting to me is a lot of the home labs have gone from just running, you know, like a Docker container, right? They went from Proxmox with VM to Proxmox with maybe containers. And then now a lot of them, what they're doing is they're actually setting up Kubernetes at home to just like run things, right? Like, because it's a little bit easier for them. They can make sure the stuff stays up. They don't have to worry about, you know, like the pods like going away or something, or Docker failing or something like that. What have you learned over the last couple of weeks about your home lab and setting up Kubernetes? Is it going to fit all of your use cases for what you want to do? Or are you just trying to fit those in? Like what?
So here's what I've learned. This home lab I've been working on for over a year now. And so what I did is I had an old Mac Mini that was sitting next to my current Mac Mini. And I thought, why don't I make that a web server? That would be cool. Then I could run stuff out of my house. I could try stuff out. I could experiment. And so I flashed it. I got Mac totally clean on it and started to build things, and realized that a lot of the resources built for Macs isn't really meant as a server, right? Yeah. Where I live on the outskirts of Seattle, where our power goes out probably 2 or 3 times a year. Probably you can pretty much bank on that, like out for a day or something like that.
And you have buried lines?
Even with buried lines. No, totally.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
It's the weirdest thing.
Too.
I don't even really understand it. From what I understand, it's because of like the power transfer stations, but you know what I'm saying? Trees fall on those. I mean, we do have trees. We have a couple of them. And so anyway, but with the power going out, every time it came back, like I couldn't, like, yeah, I was struggling with trying to get things to come back, right? Like, so I'd have to go in and I'd have to restart things. I had to restart Minikube because that's what I decided to run on it at the time. And then I had to redeploy everything and reinstall everything. And so that happened every single time. And then I decided, okay. And also, Docker Desktop was taking a lot of resources. Like every time I looked at the activity monitor on the Mac, it was pegged like over 100% utilization on memory and on CPU. And so I was like, okay, this is really heavy on this sad little old Mac Mini. So one day I decided, all right, I'm going to totally drop Mac OS. And I went to Ubuntu. And basically I've installed Ubuntu, I've installed K3S, and the resources have been fantastic. Like has never really pushed it yet. Although I don't have all of my clusters back. So the main reason I was running my home lab was to serve up some websites that my son built and that I built as well. And so I'm getting those back online as we speak. And right now I've been able to get those into K3S but also spun up with vCluster. And so each of my apps are now their own cluster inside our vCluster that's running inside of my host cluster. And so again, to learn, I want to learn how this stuff works and how everything is going to go together. And right now, everything seems to be running great. And so I was able to use Ingress. I'm using ngrok because ngrok was able to provide ingress out to the world without having to configure. Yep. Essentially makes a tunnel for me rather than having to port forward on my router, set a static IP on my router, all that stuff. I can use ngrok and it just works. And
which I recommended to him. You got to do all this stuff. You got to do this. You got to have internal DNS. You got to set up, like, pretend like you're doing bare metal at home. Like, eventually. Oh,
yeah. Because I totally started fiddling with like Metal LB, and I started fiddling with, Ingress Nginx and Cert Manager and things like that. ngrok actually did all those things for me. So you're welcome, ngrok, for that commercial.
But all this to say that, like, don't stop at Kubernetes. You can use vCluster, right? Like at home, right? Like play with vCluster at home. It's where you can snapshot and restore. You can use all these features that we're talking about. You can sync stuff up. You can. I'll say it after here. Let me cut you off, Scott. Sorry, I'll finish up after and add the little.
No, I was gonna say so learning what I learned today, I do want to make that part of my process. I want to make that part of my process to snapshot my vClusters each time we put out an image, or maybe even not. I guess each time we make a change, right? Because that would make sense. Why would I do it any other time? So anytime I make a change, snapshot it and then make the change. Because then when I do these restores, because like it's built into Ubuntu, like literally everything runs as a service now. I killed it. It comes back and everything just came back. And I was like, oh, that's why Linux is nice, right? Like Linux is meant to be a server. It's meant to be a thing that restores processes that are going to be running all the time. And Mac just wasn't going to do that. Yes, I know I can do it. It was a lot harder to figure out. So now, Mike, go into your pitch.
I'll say people are running stuff on Kubernetes at home. They used to run, I run some of the stuff in containers, Plex and like that kind of stuff, but there's all these services and stuff that people are now running in Kubernetes instead that their families are relying on. Like maybe you have like an image upload or something like that for home. Maybe you've got like your camera or something like that, just save stuff like for video, like in your front door. So like it's almost becoming a production at home, right? Like, but a lot of people will try this stuff out and they'll test it at home and then they'll take it to work. vCluster fits in. Here you go. Here's the pitch. vCluster fits in because then you can install and test things at home. Maybe you've got CI/CD at home because you're trying to test like upgrades of like Plex. And you want to make sure it doesn't break something, right? Like, or you want to make sure that it'll be configured correctly. Well, with vCluster, you can do that. You can set that up. You can install Plex into it. You can install it on a different version of Kubernetes. You can install additional CRDs, right? Because the Kubernetes cluster has got global CRDs on the host cluster, but maybe you want to try something else and see if it works better. Maybe you want to use a different CRD or a different version of that CRD, or you want to make sure that before you upgrade it, it works. So install the virtual cluster. It gives you a brand new API. So the API is different from the host cluster. It's got a different database backing that API, which means you can install different CRDs. You can install different things and try it out. So try it at home, right? Like, and then you can take it to work and be like, oh yeah, we got this thing. It's good for multi-tenancy and all these other things. But at home, maybe you're not using it for multi-tenancy. You're using it for testing, right? Or maybe you've got like a large server and you don't want to have VMs, but you want to have different Kubernetes clusters that do different things, right? You could use those virtual clusters to give yourself Kubernetes clusters that do different things. Maybe your kid's coming up and he's like, oh, I want to learn Kubernetes, so I'm going to get a job. Give him his own virtual cluster, right? him or her, right? Like maybe both of them want to do it, right? Like they can go try it out, test it and stuff. And then you're not giving them their own full cluster, just like you're not giving your developers their own full cluster. They're getting like a segmented part of it.
So your Plex is running in its own vCluster, and then each of your apps are running in their own vCluster?
I'm lazy at home. My Plex is running in a Synology so that I can do all my storage there and everything. It was running on Ubuntu, and I was had a large tower with like a bunch of drives, and then I was running it with Docker Compose, like a container. But if I were to redo everything and I actually had like a rack and I had a server and I had like a storage device hooked up to it, I probably would just like mount it like with Ceph or something like that. I would use Rook and I would install Ceph, and then I would have everything configured there, and then I would probably use Kubernetes, right? Like I said, I'm lazy, so I just have the Synology set up, and I'm like 5 versions back on Plex, which kind of sucks, right? Because the new version on the phone needs a newer version. But yeah, I would. And then like I want to make some content, maybe you as well, after you've got your stuff set up, since you've been like working through it, some content about home lab stuff, right? Because while vCluster is great in the enterprise and it's great at work and stuff like that, it's starting to fit use cases that you could do at home, right? Like, so hopefully we can take go watch a bunch of the home lab videos right now, and they're going to tell you install Proxmox, install Kubernetes, start using like Helm files, start using Helm, and then maybe even customize for things. It's going to show you how to set up all the stuff, MetalLB and everything, right? But then you could take it, I want to see them take it a step further and use vCluster to where they can do testing and additional things, because home labs matter now. All right, let me go back to the slides.
They do.
Slides one more time. All right, so I'll leave this up as we kind of finish up, because we're coming to time. We'll give it another minute or two to see if anyone has any questions. But like I said, if you're shy, if you want to ask questions later, you can post a comment on YouTube. We watch that. Post a comment on LinkedIn, or reach out on Slack, right? Like the Slack information's there. I'm Mike Peterson on there. Scott McAllister. You can just reach out and ask us that question, and we can help you out. But hopefully have some more of these coming up here in the future. Like we kind of infrequently do these office hours. For the most part, we're doing the weekly demos, but with Scott on board, Scott's newer, right? Like with Scott on board, I think we'll probably see some of these show up a little bit more often, maybe once a month or something like that. We're kind of figuring out the amount of times we want to do it. Like this one was easy because we've got 3 months of updates, 3 to 4 months of updates and everything. I wanted to ask you more things, Scott. So you're gonna be in New York City on the 4th. Are you going to the Nintendo store on the 5th to pick up a Switch 2, or probably not?
What? Okay, so Mike and I we're talking about this before. I'm not a huge gamer, although I have been thinking I'm in the market for a Switch, because I love the old games. I love the NES classic games. The first version, Legend of Zelda, is still my favorite video game of all time. And so I feel like I need it because I can run those on a Switch, right?
You can run some of, so like they have the online NES, and then they have like GameCube games and stuff coming. So it's gonna be like a virtual system to where you download it, and they do have like the original Marios and stuff like that. Yeah.
So that's gotten my interest. And then I could like branch into the more recent Legend of Zelda games, because I've heard those are incredible too. So
they're very good.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So no questions or anything like that. Like I said, just post them if you want to. We'll answer them later. But I think that's pretty much what we have for the day. We'll say thank you, vCluster. Right, thank you, and vCluster. And then we'll see you again. I think we have something coming up next week, and then we're gonna have some webinars and stuff. We'll post a bunch of stuff to our YouTube and to LinkedIn. You'll be able to find the next events on what we're gonna be doing. And then hopefully you'll see some stuff from Scott too coming out here soon, and then from me as well. But I guess we'll see you next time. But I'm gonna let Scott give his little outro too, if he wants something that he wants to say before we head out. You got anything you want to add, Scott?
Yeah, thank you all for coming, and hopefully we'll see you all in the future. And definitely introduce yourself if you see us in person. And like and subscribe, as they all say, on all the different videos. So thank you all.
Oh yeah, Scott. So Scott did go to. Okay, I have one more thing. Keep on going, right? Scott did go to KubeCon, right? Like, and he got to experience the booth for the first time. And I'll tell you, every time we go to KubeCon, the booth is great, because people just come up and ask questions and they engage us. I don't have to drag anybody to come talk to me about vCluster. It's like everyone comes up, they say, "Oh, I saw this talk. I got a question about vCluster," and then it's a great way to engage. We'll be at KubeCon Atlanta too, so like we'll see you there. It's months away, but we're already talking about it. So yeah, thanks for your.
And Atlanta's a great city. If you haven't been, Atlanta's a great city. The venue where it's at, where I'm pretty sure it's at, because it's gigantic, is fantastic. It's huge. And so definitely a great place to see a show, but also great content inside of KubeCon.
Good time of the year too. It won't be as humid as it is in the summer, or as hot too. So you can actually walk around without sweating like crazily. All right. Well, thanks Scott. Thanks for coming in. This is the first time I think Scott and I have actually, a long time ago, but this first time Scott and I for vCluster have joined up. I appreciate you coming on, Scott. Like I really enjoyed it. Thank you for coming on and helping out too. And
thanks for having me, Mike. This has been a lot of fun.
I'll help you out next time when you do
Absolutely.
the other ones, and I'll try to bring a demo.
We'll be back together. Yeah, for sure.
We'll be back. Thanks everybody. See you next time. All right, bye.
Bye.